Hello everybody, this is James Diboe on Discovering Season 4, dedicated to original peoples, First Peoples, and we're discovering today. Now today we've got two guests on today who've been on before. I'm going to introduce them first. First of all, let me introduce Joseph Adekoya.
Thank you.
How you doing? Great to have you back on.
I'm very well. It's good to be back.
And also Terence Small. How you doing?
Good. Nice to be back, James.
Good, good. Well, last time we've had them on. Joe was on last time as a Nigerian chef. Also, we touched on a lot of African history. Also, Terence Small, he came on last time to speak about being AWOL from the army several years ago. And interesting discussions. And, you know, today's going to be a little different, though. Today, it's a great discussion. It's going to be like a debate, basically. What the debate is Joe is going to be representing creation, and Terence Smalls is going to be representing evolution. So we're going to go back and forth. We're going to listen to both of them and listen to both the views, and you, the audience, can have a good listen and make up your mind also afterwards. But first of all, we're going to deal with something called the beginning. So on the beginning now, okay, I'm going to start with you, Joe. What is the beginning? And when we say the beginning, you can deal with it from how did the world begin?
Okay, for me, generally, I think the world began the world has ended a couple of times that we know of. Even the Bible talks about it, that the great flood. Even though the Bible, some of the stories in there are allegories, yeah. So basically, the original people on this planet I'd say the first person on this planet was a black woman that created every being, and it's been scientifically proven as well that we all emanated from a black woman.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe in the theory that God created heaven and earth in 7 days. That's an allegory again. It didn't happen. And also I don't believe in the Big Bang theory as well. I can't put my hand on it specifically where we came from. That still boggles my mind. I don't believe in the Big Bang theory. Like I said, I don't believe in the creation of heaven and earth by a god of some sort. But what I do believe in is that a black woman from, I'd say, Eastern Africa, Ethiopia started the world that we know of it as of now, not the world that has disappeared.
Okay.
Because this isn't the first time this planet has been around, you know. So
now,
that's my view.
if I can just ask a quick question on that, you mentioned about the Bible. You also mentioned about science. So, when we deal with, what parts of the Bible do you feel are true? You mentioned about the world being destroyed several times.
Yes, I'd say definitely the world has been destroyed several times, because you've got to think about the dinosaurs.
Okay.
Where did they go? They weren't mentioned in the Bible.
Yeah.
But we know that dinosaurs existed.
Do we?
Well, they're not just made up, are they?
I don't know.
Because
I don't know.
They keep finding dinosaur fossils all over the world, don't they? So that means dinosaurs must have been around at some point. And basically, around the time of the dinosaurs, you had the Africans that were considered to be bushmen, and you had the Europeans that were considered to be cavemen, which is why they tell us quite a lot of things in films and on TV, but we just don't pay much attention to it. The Flintstones, for example, were the Europeans.
Yeah.
They were cavemen.
Clear your bike.
No, they were cavemen.
Yeah.
Africans were the Bushmen, which were the Homo sapiens. The Europeans were Neanderthal.
Yeah.
So make your mind up from that.
Okay, we're going to come to Terence now. Now, evolution, Terence, now, just from your perspective, you know, some people know about how evolution that on board. You here today to represent evolution. So, how do you see the beginning, Terence?
The beginning of life.
Yeah, I mean, you with the Big Bang, is it?
Yeah, I'd start off with the Big Bang.
Okay.
As in,
how did it happen then, the Big Bang? If you could give your version of it, or
the Big Bang goes back to about 13 billion years ago, 13.5 billion years ago, and it begins with a singularity, which supposedly had everything inside it that exists in the universe today.
Yeah.
All in a small, dense spot, smaller than a period on a page. And for some reasons, it started to expand, and that's what's called the Big Bang.
Yeah.
So the explosion in that sense is really a rapid expansion. So that's what I believe.
What
I believe
caused
the universe,
it? What caused it?
That's one question I can't answer. Can't even begin to answer. Even though it's agreed that the universe, because the universe is expanding now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Galaxies are moving apart from each other. Stars are moving apart from each other. So this expansion that come from the beginning is still going on.
So, so would you say by accident, or there's not enough evidence to show how it began?
There could be evidence, but it's I haven't looked for actual evidence of why it happened.
So when you say 9 point, what was that, 9 point something billion years?
For they date it back, the beginning of the rapid expansion, 14.6 billion years. That's the beginning of the universe.
So the beginning of the universe.
Yeah,
so
starts with the singularity.
What about this planet?
This comes way later.
So what are we, about 4 billion or something?
Yeah, about that.
About that,
maybe
yeah.
2.5 to 3. I forget the exact figure now, but this Earth's way late.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where we move now then? We dealt with what we call the beginning of the world, the planet, the universe. Now we're going to move on to humans. You might decide to do modern humans, Homo sapiens, however you choose to do. So Joe, tell us from the beginning. And I think you were touching a little bit on the beginning of humanity, where you mentioned about a woman. And usually scientists talk about Lucy in Africa, Ethiopia, just like you said, East Africa. Now, what makes you believe Ethiopia? Well, not Ethiopia. What makes you see as East Africa? Because you use science to back yourself up before.
You see, like, even if you look at the Vatican City,
Yeah.
Which is in Rome, obviously the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
They still have scientists in there as well, researching, doing researches still. So obviously science and religion working in hand.
Yeah.
You know, so obviously they must know something that they don't really want people to be aware of. So going back to the first woman that they call the Eve gene, which is in the black woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I generally believe that people just migrated, and the more you migrated away from the sun, Mother Nature recognizes that your skin pigment needs to change to adapt to the environment in which you're moving to.
That's right, yeah. Yep.
So there's no point in being in Africa and having a white person's skin, because you're going to eventually, obviously now we can adapt to it.
What about albinos?
Albinos,
Been around for a while.
They've been around for a while. There's not, albinos are just black people that haven't.
Yeah.
They're just black people without the melanin.
Yeah.
And they're, you know, albinos. I probably think maybe albinos. I don't know this for certain, but like the more you move away from the sun, the less melanin you have in your skin. So I think over a general period of a time, when Africans migrated towards Europe to adapt to the environment that they were moving into, they developed more fat tissues in their body in order to be able to deal with the cold climate that they're moving into, which is Europe, which also goes to the theory of why Europeans swim better than Africans. Right, let me just quickly touch on that. If you notice, or if you watch any Olympics or anything, or Commonwealth Games, you'll find that you don't find many Africans swimmers. We do more athletics rather than swimming. Okay, so because Mother Nature realizes that Europeans, no matter where you're from, if you're a white person, whether you live in South Africa now, Australia, you are a European. Accepted?
Yeah.
Right? So you need 5 layers of fat in you to keep warm in the winter months for Europeans. Africans have 2 layers of fat, which basically means because we're closer to the sun, we don't need 5 layers to keep us warm.
Okay.
So fat floats, muscle sinks. Europeans swim better because they've got that layers of fat.
Yeah.
Africans have 2 layers of fat, so we can't swim as fast as they can. Doesn't mean that we can't swim, but Europeans are going to be slightly better swimmer than we can, but we'll be better athletes than they can because we've got muscle density and they've got fat density.
Okay. Now, Terence, now, just dealing with the beginning of humanity now, how do you think it goes down anyway from you dealing with, obviously, Big Bang, then obviously I'm sure you're dealing with the stages of evolution, and even before man had a common ancestor with the apes, that they say, that comes out of something. Eventually, it could start off as bacteria, it could something in the water, and then eventually come out the water, and then later on. Now, you can tell us a little bit about that, and also why you think that it's correct that way.
Well, ultimately, I think all life is related.
Okay.
Some species are closely related than others. Like you said, the common ancestor between humans and chimpanzees is obviously closer related than a fruit fly, which has still got 60% the same genomics as a human, 60%.
Yeah.
So if you go back 500 million years ago to a period called the Cambrian, the only organisms that you can find in the fossil record are single-celled organisms.
Okay.
You know, really simple.
Yeah.
It's only after that we start seeing more complex multicellular fish and stuff like that. There's no humans, no dinosaurs, none of that, no tetrapods, no fall. It's all just simple cells in the deepest levels of the fossil record. So I think this shows a slow graduation. This is evidence of a slow graduation over time from single cells to multi-celled and ultimately there to humans.
Okay, so see, some people, whether they're not just religion, but some people who are just spiritual, and some people say, I don't believe we came from apes or we have a common ancestor with apes. You know, then some people can see the science of it, like yourself. So when you first heard that people having a common ancestor with apes, how did you take that when you first?
No, I was totally against it.
Yeah, okay.
At the time, I was a Bible. This is around 2009, 2010. I'm a Bible believing Christian, and I'm on YouTube watching videos back and forth because this was a hot debate back then.
Oh, you were Bible?
People were making
the Bible then?
Yeah, I fully believed it, and people were making back in 2009, 2010. This was a hot topic on YouTube. People were making videos every day, uploading debates, videos. Evolution's true, evolution's not true. Back and forth between creationists and evolutionists, and I was caught up in that on the creationist side. So it took me years to finally. I come over to the side, but when I think back, like how dedicated I was to the creationist position, I was just like, evolution was just a hoax, like for people who don't want to believe in God. And then now to be on the other side, to be able to see, like, you know, it's interesting to have both them backgrounds.
Oh, that's interesting because I didn't actually expect you to say that. But so science has changed your views basically. Where one time you were into the Bible and you've seen that you felt like the science is overwhelming. Now, not to.
But hang on, let me just say though,
on,
I don't think evolution. I think people can believe in evolution and have religion at the same time. You know, where like God's ultimately behind it.
Okay.
Like a theistic evolution kind of thing, because you'll find Christians today and Muslims today, people from all religions, people from no religions, who can all get behind evolution. You know what I mean? They find a way to reconcile.
So do you believe in a God, would you say?
I believe in a higher power.
A higher power, okay. Okay, that's good enough because...
But I haven't really defined what it is to myself yet. I'm still struggling with questions and, you know... Trying to figure, I'm on like a spiritual journey, as they say.
Oh, that's the way it goes, the spiritual journey.
I tend to agree with that. Sorry to interrupt for a minute.
Well, finish up what you're saying, but I wanted to also add on about when they say common ancestor with apes.
Right.
And
you see, I was going to touch on that as well. I don't believe we evolved from the apes. I think that's an European theory to dehumanize Africans and black people. It was only last week that they did a surgery in America where they put a pig's heart in a guy's as a replacement for a guy, and our closest DNA is to that of a pig. So basically, if you wanted to give someone's heart and we were related to the apes, they should go and get the apes, shouldn't they? Rather than go to a pig. Yeah. So that just blows that theory out of water straight away.
Interesting.
It's a European way to call Africans savages.
Now,
It's as simple as that.
yeah. Now, two things with that. When we say, one, when you say to call Africans savages, now they would also say that they come from these common ancestors too. It's not just only us. They'll say the world.
Yeah, but Europeans don't. Some Europeans
Now-
don't agree that they came from Africa.
Oh, well, depends if you. I'm talking about people who are dealing with science.
Right.
So we know what science. If you go against science from Western science, or that's what you want to call it. If you go against science and you're an anthropologist, it's irresponsible. So if you are, you can't. That's what I'm saying. Like even like my grandmaster teacher, Ranok Rashidi, as much as deep as he was, spiritual as he was, well travelled and seen it all, he still, from his research, finds that we come from a common ancestor with apes. But he also says he does believe in a higher power.
So do I.
So it's interesting that actually you mentioned that before.
So do I.
Even though you're still trying to define it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? But anyway, now the common ancestor with apes also, another thing I need to bring up as well. Now I know it's an insult always what Europeans want to put on us, but do you think it also does something else, Joe? What I want to ask you is the timeline of humanity on this planet. If we go along with the scientists, yeah, they say to deal with modern humans, I'm talking about not Homo sapien, they say 200,000 years ago in Ethiopia. Yep. They said then they found some fossils in Morocco, and they say 300,000 years. So they've moved to Morocco now. So now they're going to move. They might move to somewhere else in the future in Africa because they're still digging. So do you think with this common ancestor with apes, it's kind of shortening our timeline down on this planet, where we could be older than 200,000 years as modern humans? We could be millions. We could be. What do you think on that?
I'd say
the timeline.
I'd say we've been here for millions of years.
Okay.
We touched on this earlier on when you and I were talking that the world as we know it now isn't the first time life has been on here. We've gone through the Bronze Age, we've gone through the Ice Age. So life as it is now is just restarted itself again after a few maybe an asteroid came down from somewhere and just wiped everything out and started again. So going back to touching on this ape thing that you were talking about before, and all some of the animals that you have now,
Yeah.
if you look at some of them, you'll find that they are very, very close relatives to dinosaurs. So some animals have evolved as well. So human beings evolved from Homo sapiens to what we have today. So basically, if you were to think that if there was evolution, why isn't apes still evolving to human beings today?
Well, maybe Terence can answer that question.
What stopped the evolution? Because if it's happened once, it should be able to happen again.
Okay.
So
I'd say in the same way that when Latin's the mother language, isn't it, of all these European languages, but once these European languages split away from Latin and developed into their own, let's say, species, Latin's still there. You know what I mean? It's because the families, the different species of animals have come away from a primate ancestor, which is behind. It's not just. Someone said the other day that I thought it was a misconception to say that monkeys are related to humans, but if you go back far enough, apparently there's a monkey behind every ape. So all of the apes, whether it's orangutan, chimpanzees, they all have got a common ancestor with a monkey. But main piece of evidence, let me just give this, why I'd say chimpanzees related to human beings. Indigenous retroviruses. We mapped the genome of the chimpanzee, we mapped the genome of the human, and we found the exact same indigenous retroviruses. These aren't passed on, these are built into your DNA. So we found the exact same endogenous retroviruses inserted in the exact same place in the genome on the chimp as they are in the human. There's more than 200 of them. So people are saying some viruses are being passed between, in the traditional way where you just pass them on. Chimps have passed viruses onto humans before, but this is too many, and they're in a specific spot on the genome. It's identical in both, so they're saying we're related, and when you find our common ancestor, he'll have them too.
So just 1 sec. When you said about viruses being passed on to humans, you're not talking about the AIDS virus by any chance, are you?
Do you know what? The HIV virus, which leads to AIDS, is actually a retrovirus. And that's what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about an endogenous retrovirus, which is built in deep into the DNA, and it's been there for generations.
Don't you think that was man-made though? The HIV virus
definitely.
that was man-made.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's nothing to do with
So
AIDS
cut
or
that one
anything.
out.
No,
To be honest,
I wouldn't use that one. That's just
Okay.
that's not an endogenous retrovirus that we share with the chimpanzees. But if you actually look, obviously this is the thing. I was thinking to myself, when I actually present evidence, it's going to be hard to, because you're not really in a position to check it out, are you? Already in real time.
People can always go back and do that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's what I said. The endogenous retroviruses, these are thousands of years old. I mean, they're not even active anymore. They just lay dormant, buried deep into the genome.
Can I
they're in the exact same.
Yeah, can I ask a question? Do you think it's possible to have 2-3 different species of, okay, take citrus for instance. You've got orange, you've got grapefruit, you've got lemon, you've got lime. Yeah? They're all the same family, aren't they? So why can't that be the same as human beings, apes, chimpanzee and monkeys? That we're close related, but we did not come from monkeys.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. I'd say we're close related, but we didn't come from them.
We didn't come from them.
Yeah.
We could be.
We're not direct descendants.
No, we didn't exactly.
Well, they say common ancestor. That's
what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
common ancestor. So
whether you believe or not, yeah.
What about the example I've just pointed out? An orange is never going to be a grapefruit, is it?
No.
A grapefruit is never going to be a lemon. But what do we call them? We call them citrus. So same thing goes with human beings, monkeys, gorillas. Because why did they stop evolving into human beings?
That's a good question. Why did it stop?
Why did they stop evolving?
Why do you think? Do you think it's?
I don't think evolution has stopped. I just think it's so slow. You just don't see it in real time. You've got to look back in. For me, you've got to look back in the fossil record, and you can see, like for instance, you'll see humans, and you'll see Lucy, like you said before, going back. What is she? 500 billion years or something like that? Maybe
Lucy,
older.
1 point something, 2 million.
Yeah,
like that.
something like that.
1.8 million.
But then you've got a bunch of transitional forms in between, where they've got human characteristics and ape-like characteristics, and then people will come along and say, no, they're fully ape. No, they're fully human. But both them people are ignoring the fact that no, these have got both human traits and ape, the ape characteristics as well. You know what I mean? So that's why I think there's a gradation, and you know, they're not all there for us to see.
I do think there's a close link between human beings and the apes that you're talking about, but I don't think we came from them.
What would you say?
I think we share some similarity to them, maybe perhaps a DNA, but
why would you think that would be though? Do you think,
because if you look at a monkey,
hunter-gatherers, how they were living?
No, because if you look at a monkey, a gorilla, the way they care for each other is similar to that of a human being.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that we came from them.
It doesn't.
You know what I mean? It just means that we are. It's like a banana and a plantain.
Yeah.
Same family, but totally different thing entirely, aren't they? So a banana is never going to be pleased to be said, oh yeah, you're a plantain. So I'm never going to be pleased to be called a monkey, but we might share the same traits. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, it's just that simple.
It's just how you look at it, isn't it? It's like it can be. You can look at the similarities and say it's a common designer.
Yeah.
Like for whatever reason, whoever God was, he decided that 200 plus retroviruses in a human are going to be put in a chimpanzee. Yeah. Or you can look at it as it's, you know, evolution. It is every argument you can give for evolution, I think it can be spun as in that, well, God just wants it to be like that. So it's,
well, like Joe said before about why aren't chimpanzees changing to humans now? And then you said maybe it's still going on evolution, but it's...
Yes, things are still changing in real time.
So what do you think if things... When are we I mean, I'm not telling you to tell me the date when we're going to evolve next, but do you see like we need another ice age or like to...
If we had another ice age, then coming out of it, there'd be massive changes like there was coming out of the last one.
Because don't forget, I mean, they say an ice age is what some people say every 50,000 years or some 100,000 years. So what they say of the timeline of modern humans, we got to see about maybe 2 of those ice ages to 3 ice ages. Yeah. And then anything before that's Homo sapien, Neanderthal, Denisovan, and all these names.
Because modern humans are only 200,000 years old. You can't find one in the fossil record before that. You look before that, you're seeing Homo erectus, Neanderthals, Java man, Cheddar man, Lucy.
But they were still human
And
beings,
they've all
though.
got, and they've all, none of them have got the same brain skull as us. None of them have got the same pointed chin. They just haven't got the anatomical features. You know what I mean? You can, if you compare the skulls next to each other. I mean, like I spoke to creationists and they've said, no, they're just all humans. You know what I mean? But for me, I can't accept that because there's just too many differences, even though some of them are subtle.
Can I just say one thing? Remember that Joe made like a little point before, it made me think about life being destroyed and rebuilding several times.
There's been mass extinction.
Now,
Now,
could this be a possibility? Just, I want you to come in now. Could it be a possibility that these stages of evolution, when we're going back to 6 million years ago, that the Earth has destroyed the old race or the old human, even if they weren't fully looking human? The next lot of humans come, maybe it gets destroyed again. You were like getting closer to human.
Well, okay.
Up to where we are now, basically.
Up to where we are now.
Yeah,
We do know in time that there was the land of the giants, yeah? So obviously, when the giants were around, I'd say that's around the same time that the dinosaurs were around, because they matched each other's.
That makes sense.
They matched each other's, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
So when the world ended and started again, Mother Nature, I don't want to say I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any form of organized religion, deity, but I do believe in a deity, that there is an higher being out there. He's neither Christian, Muslim, nor Jewish. He's just God is. He's in you. He's in you. He's in me. He's in Chase behind us over there. God, for me, is basically your God. Because if we were to believe what the Bible tells us, that God created man in his own image, that means if you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you see? You see an image of James.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that means you're an image of God. You're an image of God. I'm an image of God. God did not say, the Bible did not say God created the Jews or God created the Muslims and then created everyone else. God created man in his own image. So that means a newborn baby has God-like features.
So when we say God, and some people are thinking of God's powers now, so would we better to say we can be the quality of God, but not the quantity of God?
No, you can't. He's giving you that power, though. That's the free will that he's giving to you.
Do you understand what I'm saying about the quality and the quantity?
Well, that's what I'm saying, the free will. The quality is to do good, and the quantity is to do bad. So that's your free will to do, okay, I'm going to use my godlike powers to do good, or I'm going to use my godlike powers to do evil, just like Adolf Hitler chose to do.
Now, what I mean by the quantity, you know what the quality is. You know, we have like special ways as human beings that, you know, whether you want to connect it to God, like whatever. But when I'm saying the quantity, I'm talking about if you're God, I'm God, he's God, everyone else is God. Now we're dealing with a quantity now, aren't we? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and I can only be me. You can only be you. He can only be. We can't be all each other.
Yeah, well, you're your own God in your own right.
Yep. So I'm an individual.
Yeah. Sorry for that. You're an individual God. I'm not saying that we all like. Oh, it just means you've been given the free will to do good or bad. Yeah. So basically, you know, if you look at a baby now and you say to that kid, look, you're never going to amount to anything. That kid is going to end up probably growing up amounted to nothing because you fed him that all his life. But if you breathe into that kid and say, look, you're number one, you're going to be amazing, you're going to be the world number one, you're feeding positivity into that kid's life. So you're creating a world number one, aren't you?
Confidence from the beginning, you're giving them.
There you go. So you can also look at the baby and say, look, you're never going to be nothing in your life. You're creating a non-entity then, aren't you? Or you could say to that baby, look, you're number one. No one is ever going to beat you. Look at Novak Djokovic or all these great tennis players or all these boxers. They've been formed into being champions, haven't they? So someone took the time to create a champion in them. So that's the godlike powers that they've chosen to go down.
Yeah, of course, definitely. So anyway, now we dealt with we can see different versions of this, and what's interesting about this debate is both of you have used God also as a reference, and both of you have used science also.
Yeah.
So
you can't get the universe.
You
can't just come on its own. You can't. It's
no.
impossible.
That's why I also said to you, look, in the Vatican City, they've got a science department in the Catholic Church. So if they don't believe in science, why? If all they believe in is in God,
They advanced the theory of the Big
Yeah.
Bang theory come out of the Catholic Church.
Catholic Church.
Yeah,
So
Catholic
basically,
priest,
if they don't think that God is the only thing that that is, they won't spend that much money into doing science researches, would they?
and they've accepted evolution, believe it or not, the Catholic Church, which was a long time coming, like, but they've got round to it. Not this Pope, the last Pope came out and said, well, the game's up.
But the last Pope,
we
for me,
accept it
though,
now.
I don't know whether we want to touch on that last Pope, because for me, Joseph Isinger, his name is, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, rats.
Reisinger or something like
Yeah.
that. He was a Nazi Jew. Was a youth Nazi. He's supposed to have died 5 or 7 years ago. He's still alive. He's still alive.
He's still alive.
Well, we haven't heard of his funeral, have we? But he stepped down for this Argentinian guy to take over, and obviously because allegedly, you can't say for certain, but allegedly, Pope John Paul II sent him around the Catholic world to brush out all the pedophile priests and stuff like that, which he never did. So my assessment was, someone's probably said, look, if you don't step down as the Pope, we're going to bring the church down. So he had to come up and say, look, I'm going to die. And I've got this incredible...
And that's the first time a Pope's actually stepped down, isn't it?
It's never happened.
Never happened.
It's never happened. And, and he's still alive. And this other guy who I think is doing a fairly good job, but having said that, we say the root of all... Money is the root of all evil. But the church wants you to give them money. Yeah. So it's kind of contradicting itself, isn't it?
Of course. But now where we're up to now anyway, yeah. So we understand, like, who invented the Big Bang Theory. We've talked about, like, evolution, the beginning and that. We go a bit further into it now, and I want to touch on something a bit more spirituality now. So I'm obviously going to speak to you, Joe. How do you see spirituality coming from? Whether you're the Yoruba, aren't you?
I'm very, very...
So you're the perfect man
a lot.
to actually speak to, because even though I'm an Ijaw tribe of Nigeria, Terence is Igbo, but Yoruba I do gravitate to more, because I feel like a lot of the survivor knowledge is still in the Yoruba more so than other tribes. We've all got our own stories. I've got a story of my tribe coming from Kemet. Igbos have the same story. There's all different stories all over Africa. The Dogon speaker coming from Kemet. But anyway, from the Yoruba perspective, how do you see, from your own traditional ways you've learned orally, tell us a bit about the Yoruba, and we're going to connect this to creation as well as spirituality.
Okay, from my experience, as much as I think we touched briefly on this the last time I was here.
Yeah.
I don't like the word voodoo. I don't like the word juju. I think it's...
what about Vodun?
I don't like any of those words at all.
Okay.
Yeah?
So
For me, it's African spirituality. It's African religion. I think I mentioned this the last time I was here as well, to the fact that Africans have been enslaved twice. The first time we became Muslims.
By the Arabs.
By the Arabs. So we turned our backs on our own gods and took on the gods of the Arabs. They enslaved us. Second time, the European came with their Jesus Christ, came on a boat called the Good Ship Jesus to take Africans as slaves. Yet again, we turned our backs on our gods again. They enslaved us. So what does that tell you? The Bible says, thou shalt not worship false idols. So everything in the Old Testament is African history. Okay. There wasn't a single white person in the Old Testament. Well, so when you're turning your back, when you're worshiping a foreign idol, that means you're not worshiping what your forefathers did. So everything, even till today, if you look at cars, cars have cat eyes. Everything you need is in nature. So we Africans, we used to worship the elements, Shango, which is god of thunder. Europeans changed him to Thor.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Those are our deities.
Ogan, Oshan, we have all
They-
these.
Those you can use them for good and you can use them for bad. Just like you can use any organized religion for good
I'm happy
or
you
for bad.
I'm happy you said that
It's just
because
as simple as that. It's not. I don't.
because we were having a discussion yesterday when I was saying about some people have used African spirituality, brought the negative out of it, where you can use it positive or negative. And I was saying when the Europeans came over and they've stolen a lot of our knowledge from Roman times to Greek
The
times.
Greeks did.
Yeah.
The
You know
Greeks
what I mean?
did.
Yeah. And even before them, the Babylonians,
Yeah.
the Persians, the Hyksos. You could just go on forever. So even when we talk about slavery, people coming into Africa, way before the Arabs, way before the Christians. We're going way back. I mean, this is why I just love history so much.
So do I.
And I'll deal with it from, because I look at the European perspective of dealing with the first dynasty, 3100 BC, but then he doesn't deal with pre-dynastic dynasties. That's only for top quality scholars.
Europeans are late.
Pre-dynastic dynasties, and with pre-dynastic, you don't really know how far it goes back.
Yeah.
No.
That's what's so amazing
That's
about
what
it.
you're talking about the other day, and it was Abdi saying the
Yeah.
pyramids could be older than than this 3000 BC. Could we go back 10,000 years, 7 to 10,000 years? The Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
The Great Pyramid.
Yeah.
We know for a fact though that the pyramids were built by black Africans.
Definitely, yeah.
Not the imposters. I think we touched briefly on
And not
this.
aliens as well.
No, that's what Europeans
Must have to ask,
would.
yeah.
Europeans would rather accredit it to aliens than give it to black ingenuity.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey Joe, can I ask you what do you think happened to the technology and the knowledge how to build? Because obviously it's being lost, hasn't it?
Of chemists.
The Kemetic science that taught us how to build these, pyramids that can't be built anymore. It's either being lost
You need to
through
watch
oral tradition or lost through writing.
You need to watch an American comedian called his name is Griffiths. What's his name? Eddie Griffiths. Am I right? Eddie Griffiths. Yeah.
Okay.
Eddie Griffin.
Oh, okay.
And he actually made a joke about how he thought the pyramids were built. Him saying that it was built upside down.
I've heard that one.
As it is above,
I've heard that
it is below.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
As it is above, it is below.
Okay.
So there you
Yeah.
go. So you've also got to think that the Egyptians, when they were doing all these things, Europeans will allow you to think that it's aliens who came down to build it, rather than say like Africans were smart enough to be able to do those things themselves.
The slave theory is quite prominent, though. It was built by slaves.
Well, what slaves though?
Yeah, true.
And
Well,
Jewish slaves, maybe from the
the original
Exodus.
Jews, the original Jews were blacks themselves.
Hebrews.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
Hebrews, sorry.
the original Jews. I'm sorry to, the Jews. Original Jews were Africans.
According to Sheikh Anta Diop, he says no slave built them.
No,
You
okay.
know,
Take for
humanity
instance,
built
like
just normal.
the Ark of Covenant.
Would the slave even care how to even build them?
No,
You wouldn't
because
care, would you? I mean, it's not like you're saying to a slave, we want you to build this house. This is building something that's...
Yeah.
Come on now, it's not like, how long did it even take to build them?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So
A long time.
that's to be an advanced knowledge. And,
Of course it is.
And we've lost that knowledge
Yeah.
for different reasons, and is our knowledge still surviving there?
Maybe you could rediscover it one day, because if it's written down, it could still be buried in the desert, and
It could
people are
be.
finding stuff all the time. But
All
if it
the
was
time.
oral, if it was passed through orally, then
All the
people have
time.
died, and we've lost it with them.
I wouldn't even be surprised, because even if you were to look at Mali and the kingdom of Timbuktu, we're still discovering archives that got buried into the ground when invaders would come to invade Mali back then, because the oldest university in the world is in Mali. Right? They'll let you think that it's just Oxford or Cambridge. No, it's not. The oldest university that we know was in Mali, and I think there was a king called King Mansa Musa.
Yeah.
Still the richest man till date, and I think it was the detriment to Africa because he traveled to
Mecca, didn't he?
to Mecca,
Yeah.
and he gave away that much gold on his way to Mecca in Egypt that the price of salt had more value than gold, because he gave away that much. So those Arabs knew, we need to invade where this guy is coming from. So which is why you have Arabs in North Africa now. So going back to Mali anyway, so most of those informations, African artifacts were buried, so the invaders couldn't steal them. So as you were saying, yeah, we're still going to be finding a lot more of these artifacts can come in because, we were amazing at one point.
It looks like done it from what's been left over.
No, we were amazing.
We can literally see it.
Yeah. We were amazing. Even if you were to go to the North Americas as well, the first indigenous people of Mexico were the Olmecs. Yeah. But they will never let you know that.
Well, what it is you'd have to do your own outside studies. Where when I was searching who is the oldest, and the oldest, I've mentioned this many times, Lucia in Brazil, that they found in Brazil.
Yeah.
And they reconstructed it, and it's a black lady.
Okay.
They called it Lucia, named after Lucy.
Okay.
Now, that's the oldest they found. It doesn't mean there's nothing older than Lucia. And also on the California coast, people have talked about this bone found 90,000 years old. And then people say, no, that's just a total myth. Where's the evidence? But there is evidence, but things are so suppressed. So this is why when I was saying to you before about, has our timeline been shortened by using the Homo sapiens sapien and our stages to evolution? If we cut out the apes, where does that take us? It could even take us back to the times of Pangaea. You know Pangaea, when the continents are all one. Because when we follow the stages of evolution, we have to do things in an order which we're not even nowhere near the beginning. We're not even.
I wouldn't necessarily
on Pangaea.
I also wouldn't
from a science perspective.
I also wouldn't necessarily agree with white or European publication on world history.
Oh yeah,
because it's history, not our history.
That's definitely right.
For an African or a black person to know their own history, R.I.P. to Runoko Rashid.
Well, because two years ago, I had him in the Caribbean Centre.
Yeah, I met him when he came to the Quakers House about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, amazing.
With people like that, opens our mind to know how great we once were, because like. It's just mind-boggling to the extent that they've eaten that much away from Africans that we don't really know our true value and our true worth on this planet. Because, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah, well, I'm happy you mentioned Runoko Rashidi. He was definitely
amazing.
He was my biggest inspiration. Inspired me to go into rainforests and jungles and travel extra places. And he showed us as well that as black people traveling, because it's different being black traveling than
I can imagine.
I can imagine. Some people think traveling just for it's as black people, and you want to carry yourself still with your culture, not try to fit in with anybody. You find that how can I put it? When I went to see these, soon as I went to the Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, and I met these indigenous black people, when I'm in the tourist zone, I don't feel too at home.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
As soon as I went to see our brothers out in the rainforest and in the mountainous areas,
really,
spiritual connection,
really,
whole snap of the finger within seconds, and it's like they knew I was coming.
Yeah,
that's how. And I felt that spiritual connection with them.
Can I just ask you, do they still feel connected to Africa, or do they know their own history as to how they got to these places that you visited?
Okay, well, the Malaysians, when the Orange Asley tribe, some of them who spoke English as well. Like, not all who speak English, but you have like few who connect with the guides and that, to be able to show people. Now, what he said is he's aware of the fairy of coming from Africa. And also he's aware of another fairy, because they'll listen to different people. There's a fairy that they might have came from South America. Now, obviously, I've seen that as well, but what that is referring to, from Africa to South America to Southeast Asia, that's what I read. Also, some of them believe that they've been there forever.
Well, okay.
Now, the people in the Philippines, one of the first questions I asked them, because I thought, I'm not on the tour now, I got hired a car with a driver and he takes me in there, but he's not there to tour. You have to do all that yourself. No problem. Does even better. So now when I get out the Jeep now, and the Filipino man doesn't want to leave the car, he's saying, this is all you do what you do. So now when I'm speaking to them, and the very first thing I said to them, I didn't think to say this, it just popped in my mind. I said, Jews know Africa. And I wasn't sure at first if they're going to understand my language. But it was like when I said Jews know Africa, it was like whether they understood my language or not. For that second, they did. And they all shouted, I've got a video. I've sent you the video before. We're all shouting like, yeah, like about when I'm talking about Africa. So then naturally, I'm just started speaking about it. That's where we all come from. You know, like, and the vibe, it was only like about a 40-second video we're done, but it was like 40 seconds of magic. And this only happens so many times in life.
Okay, I've got two things here for you. Before Buddha was Asianized, yeah, Buddha was a black man.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the things you see on his hair, those are cornrows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's one.
And that comes from Hinduism eventually.
That comes from Hinduism
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he traveled.
Yeah.
To be a samurai, to be a true samurai in Japan, you had to have black blood.
The more black blood, the better. That's
Oh
it.
yeah, you mentioned that last time. I
To
think
be a true samurai.
True samurai.
The first samurai in
the
Japan.
Shogun or whatever.
No, samurai. Shoguns are gangsters.
Isn't he the head of the Shogun?
No, like shoguns are like yakuza.
Oh, okay. Thought he was
Yeah.
head of state.
No. The samurai are just like gladiators, and they defend. They fight for honor or whatever.
Yeah.
But to be a true samurai in Japan, you need to have a true African blood in you because the first samurai was a black man.
That's it.
But they don't let you know all this.
Yeah, well, you hear different versions of the samurai. Like, for example, they talk about in the 1500s that they always like to say a slave. Like, there was the Portuguese when they were bringing African slaves, not just to Europe, they were taking some to China, Japan as well. And in the 1500s, they're showing you a Bantu. Now, it's particularly, I always look out for Bantu because I always see a lot of, why are there people always searching to slave Bantus? I'm talking not just in West Africa, not just South Africa, I'm talking about East Africa. A lot of Bantus ended up in India.
Yeah.
A lot of Bantus ended up in Japan. They ended up in China, some of them, Arabia, Iran. There was a lot, and I was like, no, only because of like, I've looked at the expansion of the Bantu and it's huge.
I was going to say, aren't they spread out all across Africa?
All across, but depends on who you read on. Some people don't want you to believe that they went to Egypt. That's
Got
too
that far,
much. So
yeah.
they all like keep them below like Somalia, but they're also in South Somalia.
Yeah.
You know, and the three different Bantus in Somalia. The ones that got there first, as first peoples, free. Then there's ones who were brought into slavery by Europeans. They brought them into Somalia as well, some slaves. And so there's different stages, but the Bantu anyway, some people believe that Bantu are also the Hebrew Israelites. Some people believe the Bantu are the Cushites also. Some people believe the Bantu are the Kemites. So there's something that they're really trying to hide. They're really trying to hide something about the Bantu. Arabs were searching for Bantu people as slaves. Europeans were searching for Bantu people.
Where are the Bantu people from?
Well, they say they started off, from, let's deal with from the perspective where I come from. You have Niger Congo in it. Now, you know, before, as a Yoruba, you must know about Yoruba land, like, before the name Nigeria, I'm talking about going back and that. And I don't even want to even just use that term, because you have many different terms for these large empires and that. But supposedly that linguistic is similar to the Bantu. So Yoruba, Niger Congo, and it's spread, because you have Niger Congo A and Niger Congo B. B equals Bantu, and A would be deal with the West Africa. You see, that's all Bantu. And but they don't they like to separate our people all the time. So when we get separated,
divide and conquer, mate.
Yeah, but they've done it in like a funny type of way, where it starts becoming now where, like, you look at East Africa, like, say we talk about Sudan or like say Egypt, and you can see a lot of them are not the indigenous Africans. In Sudan, that's a bit different, but Egypt today, what are we dealing with?
Yeah. Okay, I've got one there for you. There's a country in Africa that has more pyramids and more sphinxes than what they do in Egypt.
Sudan.
Right, so that tells you that the original Egyptians were what? Sudanese.
Yep.
Because
Yeah, that power came from the south, didn't it? And went north.
you had
Definitely.
those smaller dynasties, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they migrated to Egypt. So the original Egyptians were probably more than likely from Kemet and Nubia, which is like Sudan. So they moved up and they built the prototypes of the monstrosities that we now have in Egypt, in Sudan, to see how they can actually build the bigger ones. So, yeah. So,
And Kemet actually means land of the black people, doesn't it?
Kemet means land of the blacks.
Yeah. And so was Sudan, land of the blacks.
Land of the blacks. Nubia.
I want to deal with the flood
Nubia
in a
just
minute.
means black, yeah?
Yeah.
So everything dates back and goes back to what? Black Africa.
I want to get to the flood now. You, from the side perspective, you're probably dealing with an ice age. So when we're dealing with what we call the flood, you'd be dealing with the ice age, which, well, ice becomes a flood, doesn't it? So what do you think on the ice age? Do you see the ice age as this has made us all different peoples around the world? And
Yeah, I think we come out of the ice age about 100,000 years ago. Things started warming up, and the Neanderthals died out.
the last of the end of the ice age, you say, was like 10,000 years.
Yeah,
Not like the end of it. Like come to the
when it
end.
actually,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
this is when
come to the end.
civilizations start popping up, isn't it?
Well, they say that, yeah.
10,000
Well,
BC.
they dropped that agriculture start in the Middle East
Yeah,
around 10,000 odd years
cities,
ago.
kingdoms, and all that didn't really exist.
They leave Africa out of that, though, on the agriculture.
Yeah, of course they would.
They start with Mesopotamia.
We were the beginning.
Well, I don't know if
And this
it's where
is
did
the-
it start though? Did it start in Mesopotamia or did it start in
What?
Egypt?
It starts in Africa.
It started in Egypt. It
So
started
from
in
Egypt,
Africa.
they took the ideas across to the
Remember.
to the Middle East.
Remember, the Sahara Desert wasn't always a desert.
Exactly, yeah, true.
That was a totally, look at
Yeah.
the size. That's a bigger
Green
desert.
pastures, man.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think on the flood anyway, Joe?
The flood, yeah. If you were
To the
look
ice age.
if you were to look at what the Bible says, yeah, like that Noah and his ark, yeah, there's no way on earth that Noah existed. Because are you telling me that two little penguins walked all the way from the Arctic to get to Noah's Ark to get in? Didn't happen. But there has been a flood that wiped out the earth, and then we obviously restarted again. But
it's more of a local flood than a global one.
It's more of a
Yeah.
local flood rather than God destroyed the earth and started it again. Because you've got to think. Okay, so a lion is just going to go into a boat and not maul everyone to death. Come on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And all of the land plants underwater for the year as well. It's difficult, isn't it?
It's
How are you going to
just-
come back from that?
I think most of the stories in the Bible, most of them are just allegories. Like it didn't really happen.
Yeah.
It's a figment of someone's imagination.
Do you believe in immaculate conception?
Immaculate conception. No, I don't.
No. Well,
No, I don't.
I'm sure you don't neither. You did it one time.
No, I don't. I don't think like God came down and impregnated Mary. No.
And Immaculate Conception says when you've done it, she was a perfect woman and lived a
No,
life as a perfect
no,
woman.
I
So that's
think-
even extra still.
No, I don't believe in that. I think there was a guy called Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think it was born, but
Not what
like I said to you,
Yeah.
Even I think Jesus Christ was trying to tell you guys that I am God, just like you're God. And I think it's been misinterpreted that he's God from above to come and, and you take for instance when he was being crucified, Father, forgive them for they know what they do. Who's he praying to? He's praying to himself. Come on.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. He came down and said to people, look, you've got godlike powers in you. Yeah. So basically, lift that up. I'm there. Yeah. So he's basically telling you that God is everywhere. Yeah. You don't need to be in a church to find him. So there was a guy called I think there was a guy called Jesus Christ, but he wasn't God.
Okay.
But he's God like you are God. He's God like you're God. He's God like I'm God. So, but he's not the creator and everything like that.
Why do you think the religion got so popular so quick and grew so as big as it did? And across
I think I think it's a way to control people's minds, and it also gives people faith that there's going to be a better tomorrow. Because if you believe in something, and I also think all forms of religion, whether it's Islam, Christianity, is the detriment to Africans' mind and progress, because Europeans would want to do something. Africans would want to pray to God to make it happen. I keep quoting the Bible because even the Bible says heavens helps those who what help themselves. So if you're praying to God and saying, God, help me move that, if you don't get up to move it, you're going to be praying forever.
One question I want to ask.
Let me just quickly say this.
About, what you were saying before.
Fred Douglass, the slave, said in his memoirs, I prayed for 40 years to God to come and save me, and nothing happened until I used my feet to run away. So heavens helps those who help themselves. You can pray all you like, yeah, until you stand on your feet to run away, you're not going to get anywhere, are you? But then when you get up on your feet, then the heavens will assist you to get to where you want to go to.
One question I want to ask you now, Joe, and then I'm going to turn to the last question after that. When you were saying before the world was destroyed many times, and obviously humanity that was around that time would have been destroyed. Last time I was speaking to Zabdi, and I was speaking about, the small populations of pygmy people around the world. You find them in different places. They were in Tasmania, they were in the highlands of New Guinea. As a lot of these Southeast Asian tribes have seen. Very short people. And I was thinking, like, many of these are surviving populations from catastrophes that happened many, many years ago. Because this is the topic I was talking to Zabdi last time, about could these be the surviving populations? They're all short, and they all have their own, obviously, a traditional story, just like everyone has flood stories, around the world. So do you see, the pygmies basically in Congo?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any possible way that they could have been the oldest population and they are the surviving peoples around the planet? Or would you just say we're all related to who's on this planet now?
I also look at them, and I also look at the surviving tall people from Sudan as well.
Yeah.
So, like...
But when did they become, that tall? And
yeah, because as we were saying before, people have probably not evolved, but you get adapted to your environment, just like we were talking before we came in here. That if you lived in Mexico, I wouldn't necessarily look into it a cactus.
Yeah, you have to take what you've got.
You've got to take what's in your environment to adapt to it and to survive. Otherwise, you die off. So which is why you have to find a way to cook that cactus. Otherwise, that's what nature is giving you to eat. So which is why,
So I want to ask one question to Terence now, yeah. So where we're up to now with the evolution, and you're saying that we're still going through our evolution stage. What do you see in the future? Are we going to evolve as human beings to something else? Would you see?
Well, have we stopped evolving?
Yeah.
I don't think evolution stopped, but any big changes, that we're going to be able to see would have to be, future scientists looking back and going, oh, look, we used to look like this, and now something about our anatomy is totally changed. Like, that's all it takes, isn't it?
I mean, you know what? Here's one thing funny enough. If they can struggle with figuring out the past, they're definitely going to struggle out with the future.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Sometimes they try and use the past to say what's going to happen in the future, but with science, you
must master the past to know the future.
Yeah, definitely. If you don't know where you're coming from.
But you know what,
you don't know where you're going.
It's been an interesting discussion today. We've probably gone about an hour now, and like I say, I was happy to do this discussion because either way, we go back to the original peoples. It's black people, first people on the planet, whether you believe through science or spirituality or ancient African oral history.
This is our planet.
This is our planet, and
mainstream science even admits it. What you said before about African Eve.
Yeah, I think
everyone who's alive today.
We sold our birthright along somewhere down the line.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting anyway when the audience listens back anyway. Hopefully they get something from it, which I hope they do. I've got something from it today. It's like expanded my mind, and so I want to appreciate you both coming in at short notice.
Pleasure talking to you.
So anyway, I want to thank Joseph Adekoya and Terence Small on discovering season 4, dedicated to original peoples, and this is creation versus science. Evolution, and congratulations anyway. You both believe in God.
I believe in God massively,
and you both believe in science as well.
Yes, I believe in God massively, and I also believe you've got to have,
Combine the two together.
Yeah, hand in hand, yin and yang.
Hand to
you know.
hand.
Yeah, I struggle
Yin
with
and
one
yang.
without the other.
But this is how we're seeing our
definitely,
ancestors
definitely.
understood science better than people
Definitely.
understand. Science and
if you-
spirituality, the
If
physical
you
and
go
the
back to
spiritual.
Kemet as well,
Yeah.
the Egyptians, they believed in both.
Both.
They believed in both. You cannot have God without science, and
Yeah.
you can't have science without God. They work hand in hand.
Even
you
right
know.
through to the Catholics, like you
hand
said
to
before.
hand.
Which is why sometimes I can't understand Jehovah Witnesses where they refuse to have blood transfusion when if you can save a life by having a blood transfusion, I think if there was a God, God would want you to save your life rather than...
Very obvious that. That's just like shallow.
That's just,
It's
that
very
is shallow.
And that,
I don't want to believe in that God because your God is selfish. I'm sorry. You know, if you can't, if there's a way to save your life and you refuse to take it because it's against your God's wishes,
Yeah.
I don't want to know your God.
And there are a lot of sects out there as well that are against medicine, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
operations and stuff. So they're just like, oh no, we'll just pray.
all right, today anyway, we're going to wrap it up for today anyway. You know, season 4. Thank you very much. Discovering with
thank you.
James Diboe, dedicated to original people. Joseph Adekoya, Terence.
And this is peace.